Finally, the moment you've been waiting for has arrived. The validation your soul has been craving your entire life. The moment that proves you weren't crazy, paranoid, or imagining things. You, the beautiful, suspicious soul who always sensed that something wasn't adding up. Every instinct that whispered, "This isn't right." Every time you felt eyes on you. Every moment you sensed the game was rigged but had no evidence to prove it. This is your confirmation. A whistleblower has finally stepped out of the shadows, and not just anyone, not some low-level employee looking for revenge. This is someone from deep inside the system, someone who sat in those very rooms, who watched as they built the trap around you piece by piece. And they've now sacrificed everything to say one thing. You were set up from the beginning. Let that sink in. Every failure that made no sense. Every opportunity that mysteriously disappeared. Every person who turned on you without logic or reason. It wasn't bad luck, it wasn't karma, and it definitely wasn't your fault. It was orchestrated, carefully planned, engineered to make you doubt yourself so completely that you'd stop fighting back. They needed you to believe you were the problem. They needed you to internalize failure so deeply that you'd carry the shame as your own. Because as long as you blamed yourself, you'd never look for the architects behind your downfall. As long as you believed you were broken, you'd never realize you were being broken, systematically, professionally, with surgical precision. This whistleblower, let's call them Source Zero, has been observing the Watchers for over 15 years. They've seen how the machine actually operates, not the glossy illusion packaged in self-help books or motivational speeches, but the real machinery that grinds people down. They've studied the algorithms that select targets, the containment protocols, the neutralization playbooks. You ever wonder why certain doors never opened for you, no matter how hard you worked? Source Zero has the receipts. There's a classification system, and you, my friend, were flagged early. Maybe it was your intelligence. Maybe it was your refusal to conform. Maybe it was that unmistakable spark in your eyes that said you'd never be tamed. Whatever the reason, you were marked as a potential system disruptor. Once you're in that category, the entire game changes. It stops being about merit and starts being about management. They won't destroy you outright. It would draw too much attention. Instead, they build a maze around you. Every path leads to frustration. Every success dissolves before it can stabilize. You're forced to swim against invisible currents that no one else seems to feel. That's what Source Zero calls soft containment. You're not imprisoned, but your life becomes a cage built from circumstances. You're not banned, but opportunities disappear before you can reach them. You're not silenced, but your words are quietly buried under the algorithm until you might as well be screaming into a void. They feed you just enough hope to keep trying, but never enough momentum to break free. The documentation Source Zero shared reads like a horror story disguised as corporate policy. Flowcharts for problematic individual management. Scoring systems that rate your threat level based on unthinkable criteria. Did you question authority with precision? That's points. Did you inspire others to think differently? More points. Did you survive something meant to destroy you? Maximum points. They have terms for people like you. Anomalies in public language, chaos agents in closed meetings, system-restricted personalities in internal reports. But behind sealed doors, when no one's recording, they use a single word: dangerous. Not because you're violent, not because you're criminal, but because you're incorruptible. And Source Zero didn't stop there. They exposed something even darker. The setup wasn't just professional, it was personal. The friends who turned against you out of nowhere? Some were incentivized. The relationships that collapsed for no reason? Some were deliberately sabotaged. Nothing was random. It was all part of the same design: to isolate you, discredit you, and ensure that when the truth finally surfaced, no one would believe it. That sudden wave of reputation damage that seemed to appear out of thin air, it wasn't random. It was manufactured, distributed, and executed with the precision of a product launch. They have a term for it: social architecture manipulation. It's a structured process. They identify your support systems, map out your closest connections, and then strategically weaken them. They study the weak links in your network and apply psychological or emotional pressure until they fracture. They create scenarios engineered to make you appear unstable, unreliable, or untrustworthy. And then they simply step back, letting your own circle do the demolition work for them. It's elegant in its cruelty because you never see the puppeteer's hand. You just watch your life unravel through people you thought you could trust. According to Source Zero, the system isn't run by some mysterious cabal hiding in underground bunkers or candlelit rooms. It's much more unsettling than that, precisely because it's so ordinary. It's maintained by everyday people who've convinced themselves that they're doing necessary work. They are the bureaucrats of human limitation, the administrators of dreams, the quiet managers of acceptable success. They're not monsters in appearance. They go home, eat dinner, kiss their families goodnight, and sleep peacefully because they've been indoctrinated to believe that people like you are the threat. Your unwillingness to conform registers as instability to them. Your refusal to settle for mediocrity feels like aggression. Your clarity, your curiosity, your unwillingness to be hypnotized. It shakes the fragile illusion they live under. And because your existence threatens their illusion, suppressing you becomes, in their mind, self-defense. Source Zero was one of them once. They operated inside the system, following orders, believing they were protecting something important, until the day they watched the machinery devour someone who reminded them too much of themselves. That was the breaking point. They saw the system in its true form: efficient, calculated, and merciless, destroying human potential while maintaining perfect, plausible deniability. That moment of clarity shattered their loyalty. They realized something horrifying. The system doesn't just target individuals, it studies them. Every time you adapted, they adjusted. Every time you found a loophole, they sealed it. Every act of resistance became data. Every survival tactic you used became their next protocol. Your struggle didn't just frustrate them, it educated them. And here's the brutal truth. This was never just about you. You're feeling the heat now, but you're far from alone. Source Zero confirms what you've likely suspected for years. There are thousands like you, maybe millions, all flagged, all categorized, all subtly contained, each one fighting invisible walls, gaslit into believing they're the problem. The system has become so refined that most never realize they're inside it. They internalize the limitations as personal shortcomings. They tell themselves they just didn't try hard enough, weren't smart enough, weren't lucky enough. They never question why every door stays locked, why every opportunity dissolves just before arrival. But you never bought the illusion. That's why you're hearing this message. That's why it resonates like a memory you've always had but couldn't name. You never killed that flicker of suspicion. You protected it even when everyone called you paranoid. Source Zero's data backs it up. In their division alone, they managed over 10,000 individuals, not criminals, not terrorists, but people whose psychological profiles suggested they might disrupt the established order. People whose very existence could inspire others to think, to question, to awaken. The sophistication of their suppression methods would almost be admirable if it weren't so insidious. They use predictive modeling to anticipate your next move before you make it. They use social engineering to isolate you. They use economic constraints to keep you surviving but never thriving, barely above the waterline, never free enough to swim. And the worst part? They've gamified it. There are leaderboards for handlers who successfully contain their assigned targets. bonuses and incentives for keeping anomalies below a certain success threshold. It's not just control, it's competition. Your suppression has become their sport. There are conferences where they openly trade tactics for psychological manipulation, cleverly disguised as seminars on population management. The sophistication of their technology would terrify most people if they truly understood it. They don't just track your digital footprint. They build psychological blueprints. They don't simply monitor your communications. They map your entire social genome. They know who influences you, who you influence, what motivates you, what discourages you, what triggers you, and what breaks you. Source Zero described watching your file in real time, seeing predictions about your emotional responses before you even made them, then watching those predictions come true with eerie precision. They knew exactly which job rejection would cut deepest, which relationship loss would destabilize you longest, and how much pressure to apply to keep you struggling without tipping you into a full collapse that might make you too unpredictable to manage. But here's where Source Zero's confession turns truly dark. The system isn't just suppressing you, it's studying you. You're not simply being contained, you're being researched. Every time you adapt, they record the process. Every time you overcome an obstacle, they document the method. Every time you survive something that should have broken you, they analyze the data. You are simultaneously their victim and their teacher. Your resilience becomes a metric. Your endurance becomes a formula. Your refusal to shatter has been turned into a case study in resistance. They're learning from you, using your survival as research to design stronger cages for the next generation of anomalies. Source Zero revealed a term that should freeze your blood: iterative suppression optimization. It means they get better at breaking people by studying the ones who don't break. You've been contributing to their education unknowingly, refining their methods simply by surviving them. That's why it hasn't gotten easier, it's gotten harder. That's why every time you thought you finally understood the game, the rules changed again. They were learning from you, updating their strategies with every move you made. You weren't playing against a static system, you were fighting an opponent that evolved with your resilience. And yet that evolution says something profound about who you are. Source Zero insists the system doesn't waste resources on the harmless. Every dollar spent suppressing you, every meeting held to discuss you, every handler assigned to monitor you, it's proof of your power. You were never random collateral damage. You were recognized as a variable capable of reshaping the equation. Your intelligence, your non-conformity, your immunity to programming, they flagged you as a destabilizing force to their structure. Somewhere in a database, your name glows red, a signal of potential that frightens them. Somewhere in a boardroom, people are paid to ensure you never reach the fullness of who you are. That's not persecution, it's confirmation. Twisted, yes, but still, recognition of something real and undeniable. Your potential to create authentic success beyond their system. They saw in you what you might not have yet seen in yourself. They identified your power before you learned to use it. They feared your potential before you even believed in it. And Source Zero, they didn't just risk their career to tell this truth. They obliterated their entire life. The moment they decided to speak, they knew there was no going back. No pension, no protection, no safety net. Every bridge burned, every backup plan destroyed. Why would someone do that? Because after years of watching too many good, powerful, authentic souls get dismantled by the machine they helped maintain, they couldn't stay silent another day. It was the moment when the weight of complicity finally crushed the soul beneath it. The moment Source Zero realized they were standing on the wrong side of human history. They had spent years serving a machine that rewarded obedience and punished awareness, a structure that disguised control as stability and manipulation as progress. For the longest time, they convinced themselves it was all for the greater good, that they were protecting society from chaos. But one day that illusion shattered. They witnessed another bright mind, someone much like you, being methodically dismantled, emotionally and spiritually, by the very system they had helped maintain. They watched that person's spirit slowly dim, their fire extinguished by isolation, gaslighting, and engineered despair. It wasn't a villain's death. It was something colder. It was the quiet suffocation of brilliance under the weight of invisible machinery. And in that moment, something inside Source Zero broke beyond repair. The guilt, the horror, the awareness, it all fused into one irreversible decision. The truth had to be exposed no matter the cost. From that moment forward, every secret they uncovered, every classified file they downloaded, became an act of redemption. The evidence they risked their life to share isn't just a record of crimes against individuals like you, it's a record of crimes against human evolution itself. It's proof that the system's greatest fear isn't violence, anarchy, or rebellion. It's authenticity. It's truth. It's the rise of minds that can't be hypnotized and hearts that can't be programmed. The documents show an infrastructure so paranoid of free will that it systematically targets and cripples anyone capable of thinking independently. This isn't just political control or corporate dominance, it's spiritual colonization, a war against the unmanufactured soul. The files make it clear your pain was not random. Your setbacks weren't cosmic bad luck. They were deliberate, orchestrated, engineered. Every instinct that whispered something's wrong was right. Every time you felt eyes on you, it wasn't your imagination. Every strange coincidence, every betrayal that came out of nowhere, every opportunity that slipped through your hands, it wasn't fate. It was design. The truth is, you weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. You weren't unstable. You were awake in a world that rewards sleep. You weren't delusional, you were decoding a system that depended on everyone else staying blind. And those people who told you to stop overthinking, stop being negative, or just move on, they were either complicit or conditioned. Some were paid to keep you quiet, others were programmed not to see. The ones who mocked your intuition, who said you were too sensitive or too dramatic, they couldn't recognize the pattern because they were never considered a threat. The system doesn't waste energy caging the compliant. It only builds cages for those who might break the spell. You were important enough to be targeted, and that is the most twisted form of recognition imaginable. Source Zero wants you to know that every hardship, every heartbreak, every setback you endured was not a coincidence. It was a calculated move. Every failure was facilitated to break your rhythm. Every loss was leveraged to make you question your worth. Every humiliation was designed to make you internalize shame that didn't belong to you. But here's the paradox they never anticipated. You refused to fully collapse. You adapted. You evolved. You bent, you burned, you bled, but you never broke. You kept going when their models predicted surrender. You kept believing when their data said you'd lose faith. You kept creating when their projections said you'd quit. And that single act of defiance, your refusal to give them your spirit, became their biggest failure. Their systems predicted that by now you'd be broken, silenced, and neutralized. According to their algorithms, your mind should be exhausted, your faith dissolved, your will eroded. You should have given up, accepted your place, and stopped asking dangerous questions. But here you are, still alive, still alert, still radiating something they can't measure. Unprogrammable consciousness. To them, that makes you the ultimate anomaly, an error in the algorithm that cannot be deleted. So what does this revelation mean for your future? Source Zero makes it clear. The system is still operating, still observing, still adapting. But now you know. And knowledge changes everything. Understanding that the game is rigged doesn't make it fair, but it frees you from self-blame. It ends the cycle of internalized defeat. The psychological liberation is revolutionary. Every time you thought you failed, you can now see it for what it was: sabotage. Every wound you mistook for weakness was actually warfare. Every doubt you carried was planted deliberately to keep you docile. Now you can begin the process of reclaiming your narrative. This is what they fear most: not rebellion, not violence, but awareness. Because awareness dissolves illusion. The moment you stop blaming yourself, their entire psychological infrastructure loses power. The invisible prison begins to crack. You start seeing patterns you once missed. You notice how certain people, events, and obstacles reappear in cycles, each time with a new disguise but the same objective: to keep you compliant. You start realizing who's real and who's been placed. You begin to see the strings behind the stage. And once you see the strings, the puppet show loses its magic. Source Zero's final message was simple but devastatingly clear. They're still watching, but now you're watching back. You've become self-aware within their simulation. You've become a mirror they can't distort, a signal they can't jam. That's what real freedom looks like. Not running from the system, but walking through it untouched, knowing exactly where the traps are, and choosing to rise anyway. Now you can finally stop internalizing their projections and start recognizing their manipulations as they happen. Live in motion before they take root in your mind. This is the point they've always tried to prevent you from reaching. Awareness. The system depends entirely on your blindness. It relies on your unquestioned acceptance of its narrative, that your struggles are organic, your failures are earned, your limitations are self-inflicted. It needs you to see your oppression as natural law rather than design, because the moment you stop accepting that illusion, the entire structure begins to tremble. For the first time, you can step back and see the mechanics instead of the mask. You start noticing patterns in what once felt like coincidence. The same cycles of loss, the same engineered obstacles, the same emotional traps. You begin to see that the world around you was never neutral. It was constructed, optimized to keep you compliant. And once that realization lands, you begin to move differently. You stop blaming yourself for the battles you could never win because you finally understand they were never winnable by design. You are not the only one awakening to this. Source Zero's leak is spreading silently through networks of other anomalies. People who've been wrestling with invisible chains and confusing pain for failure. They're starting to compare notes, to notice the parallels, to realize that what they thought were private misfortunes are part of a shared script. There's a new kind of awakening happening. Not a mystical one drenched in symbols and mantras, but a mechanical awakening, a systems awareness. It's the awakening of the mind that suddenly sees the invisible architecture behind everyday life, the algorithms that decide who thrives and who stagnates, the psychological levers that shape behavior and belief. And the system feels it. You can sense the panic in its responses, how quickly it moves to discredit, to flood the noise channels with counter-narratives. They're branding Source Zero as a liar, a fantasist, a rogue agent with a savior complex. They're spinning stories to make truth sound like delusion, and delusions sound like consensus. But it's too late. The data is too clean, the details too intricate. The exposed protocols match too many lived experiences. People across the world are reading these files and whispering, "That's me." They're realizing the coincidences weren't coincidences. The failures weren't random. The isolation wasn't natural. Source Zero predicted this phase, a critical mass event, the point where enough anomalies recognize the pattern. When enough of the system's targets realize they're not isolated victims, but living evidence of a design flaw. When they stop mistaking sabotage for failure. The system operates because people don't know it exists. Ignorance is its oxygen. But once awareness reaches a certain threshold, the illusion begins to crack. Every person who wakes up weakens the algorithm. Every anomaly who sees through it erodes the architecture that kept them trapped. The prison door doesn't need to be smashed open. It just needs to be seen, and you're not alone. Right now, countless others are experiencing the same shift. People who've carried shame for years, wondering why they could never quite fit, why they always seem to attract opposition, why their best efforts collapsed under invisible pressure. They're realizing, like you, that they weren't crazy. They were correct. They weren't broken. They were being broken. They weren't failing. They were being failed by design. This is the truth the system never wanted you to understand. Their power over you has always been proportional to your ignorance of it. The less you knew, the stronger they were. The moment you start to understand their methods, their predictability, their psychological conditioning, their manipulation tactics, the power balance shifts. Awareness scrambles their algorithm. Consciousness disrupts their prediction models. The more you see, the less they can control. For years, they counted on your self-doubt to be their greatest weapon. They didn't have to destroy you, they just had to make you destroy yourself. They set the initial trap, but they depended on your mind to reinforce it. They built the first wall, but they trusted you to stay inside it. They planted rejection and you nurtured it with self-blame. They initiated isolation and they counted on you to complete it, by withdrawing, by disconnecting, by believing you were the problem. You became both prisoner and guard, never realizing how masterfully they'd trained you to cooperate with your own containment. But that cooperation ends the moment you see it. Awareness breaks the contract. You don't need open rebellion. That's exactly what they're built to handle. Revolutions can be crushed, movements can be infiltrated, but clarity spreads in silence, untraceable. The system can't fight what it can't measure, and consciousness is unmeasurable. So stop giving them your energy. Stop participating in your own suppression. Stop accepting their framing of your story. The moment you stop believing their version of you, their entire model collapses. The moment you stop internalizing their labels, their projections, their scripted limitations, your reality shifts. You begin to reclaim your autonomy. You start writing your own code. Source Zero warned that the surveillance is not what people imagine. It's not just cameras, trackers, or listening devices. It's behavioral, emotional, psychological. It's about mapping your reactions, predicting your decisions, nudging your beliefs. But now that you know this, you can no longer be moved like a pawn. You see the strings. You recognize the manipulation for what it is. Not fate, not coincidence, but control. And that's where true freedom begins, not in escaping the system, but in becoming unreadable to it. The moment your awareness rises above its predictive model, you become invisible to its design. You step out of the algorithm. You become something it can no longer calculate, a conscious variable in a mechanical world. And that, right there, is the revolution they never saw coming. It's not just cameras on corners or microphones in devices, though yes, those exist in ways far more invasive than most people realize. The true surveillance is invisible, silent, and algorithmic. It doesn't need a human eye to watch you. It needs only your cooperation. Every tap, every like, every hesitation, every thought you search, every image you linger on longer than usual. It's all logged, analyzed, and folded back into a model of you. The system doesn't watch like a spy. It predicts like a god. Behavioral prediction algorithms work continuously, running on the endless stream of data you willingly hand over for convenience. Pattern recognition software analyzes your digital movements, searching for irregularities in what they define as normal human behavior. Deviation detection protocols flag those who step too far outside the invisible lines. You don't even have to do something illegal, just different. Think too freely, grow too fast, connect too authentically, and suddenly you are no longer a citizen. You are a variable. Source Zero explains that your digital footprint became your prison blueprint. Every search that showed curiosity beyond your approved range. Every conversation that hinted at leadership potential. Every creative project that inspired too many others. All of it went into a constantly updating psychological profile. This profile doesn't just describe you, it predicts you. It determines how much suppression you require to remain compliant, how much resistance you can handle before breaking, how much hope you can be given before it turns into rebellion. It decides what doors will open and which will quietly close behind you. The most disturbing truth? Most of this process is fully automated. There are no smoky rooms full of agents dissecting your life. There are servers running deep learning systems trained on decades of behavioral control data. These artificial intelligences don't just study your actions. They learn your emotional cycles, your sleep patterns, your fears, your desires. They cross-analyze billions of data points from millions of lives, refining a model so advanced it can often predict your choices before you consciously make them. You are being managed by code AI built to mimic authority, precision engineered to preserve control. Yet ironically, this automation is also its greatest flaw. Because algorithms don't evolve, they adapt. And anomalies like you evolve faster. You are learning in ways they cannot compute. Your resilience, your emotional intelligence, your unpredictability. These are things no machine can anticipate. They rely on historical data to forecast future behavior. But you're operating in the unknown, guided by instinct, intuition, and awareness, things they can't digitize. Source Zero said it best. Anomalies adapt faster than algorithms. Your consciousness mutates faster than their models can update. Every time they map your responses, you've already become something new. Your unpredictability, once your greatest source of pain, has become your most powerful weapon. It scrambles their simulations, it breaks their predictive chains. You are the anomaly that cannot be modeled. Still, Source Zero warns, this window of advantage won't last long. The system is already evolving, upgrading its countermeasures to deal with aware targets. They are creating new frameworks designed to manipulate even those who know they're being manipulated. They are developing strategies that exploit awareness itself, techniques that simulate authenticity, empathy, and freedom, making you doubt your perception of control. They will blur the line between truth and trap so convincingly that you won't know where consciousness ends and programming begins. But right now, in this exact moment, there is a brief gap in their understanding, a crack in the code. You know more than they expect you to know. They haven't updated their models to account for a population that's waking up. In this small but critical window, you can move in ways they haven't yet mapped. You can think in patterns they haven't modeled. You can act in rhythms they can't anticipate. That window, however, is closing. Already, the system is spinning its web of misinformation to dilute what you've just learned. They're creating false whistleblowers to confuse the narrative, planting synthetic stories to make truth and fiction indistinguishable. They'll weaponize skepticism, make you second-guess your intuition, flood your feeds with noise until clarity feels impossible. They'll even recruit your peers, people who look real, sound real, and feel trustworthy, to reinforce the illusion that this awakening is just another conspiracy. They will not silence you with violence, they will drown you in disbelief. That's why Source Zero's message carries urgency. Move now. Use this clarity while it's still sharp before they blunt it with psychological interference. Don't wait for perfect evidence. Don't wait for the world to validate you. Don't wait for permission. Act while your awareness is fresh, before the algorithm recalibrates to your new frequency. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.